4:26, we're live across the UK. This is Talk Drive, JK till 7. The main man has graced us with his presence. We've just done Plank of the Week. He is here on his usual Wednesday afternoon. Morning Glory's legend, Michael Graham. Good morning.
Kiddo, I haven't seen you since last Wednesday when things were slightly different around here. Do you remember?
Last one? Oh, yes.
We had to do a whole show together.
What I found really interesting...
3 hours.
I don't know if you remember this, peeps. Maybe you don't. But basically, we were told at 3:30, after Plank had finished, that the entirety of power from the 13th to the 17th floor at Talk had gone.
Right.
General panic. Ryan was oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
He was looking very concerned.
He was very concerned. He was flapping a bit, flapping. And what resulted was that our boss said, don't worry about those two old buggers, they'll be fine. And we ended up in a sort of what looked like a potting shed somewhere in Times Radio. And for 3 hours, without any news, adverts, guests, texts or calls, we talked non-stop.
We did. It was very enjoyable, actually.
We just talked, didn't we?
Had a good time. We came up here for the last hour, didn't we?
I can't really remember.
Because they fixed it for the last hour.
What I can absolutely tell you is that we left Kev there for 45 minutes and he thought he was on air and we let him carry on talking and we in fact moved the microphone and we're up here. But there we go.
Oh, well.
Mikey, this Afghan story, we were talking about it earlier, it is beyond unbelievable. I want to kick into breakfast if I can, because this morning you spoke to the Shadow Chancellor and former Conservative Cabinet Minister, I think he was Work and Pensions, Mel Stride, because we're trying to find out and glean who the hell knew what. This is Mike with Mel Stride earlier.
I've got to ask you the first question of the day, Mel. Did you know about this super injunction that took place back in 2023?
No, Mike. As with the vast majority of people, absolutely not. And I think that's the purpose of a super injunction, is to keep it extremely tight. I believe, actually, that Keir Starmer wasn't told until he became Prime Minister. So, no, I certainly didn't know. Well, look, this is there are lots of questions to be asked, and now Parliament will look at this and ask all those questions, and the Defence Select Committee in particular will launch an inquiry into it. But look, I think we have to also bear in mind that this Labour government, when they were made aware of what had happened, did not immediately, seek to have the super injunction removed. They actually only, after about a year in office, have decided to do that. So I think there is on the surface of it, it seems to me, a reasonable case that it was necessary and appropriate, as evidenced by both what we did when we were in office, but also what this government, the Labour government, has done during their time in office as well.
For me, right, so now we're going to get into the he said, she said. Starmer was blaming the Tories. The Tories are saying that Labour could have done something last year. Let's cut to the chase. It came out yesterday because, not because Labour wanted it out,
not
because
particularly, because a judge lifted the super injunction, because
encouraged by journalists,
encouraged by news organisations who had continually gone to try and get the injunction lifted, and a judge finally lifted it. And so, of course,
well done. Let's applaud a judge for a change.
I mean, people said to me, somebody said to me, so Theo Ashford was in with me this morning, and he said, oh, I know you don't like High Court judges. I don't have a problem with High Court judges. I just don't like politically motivated judges. I want judges to be judges. I don't want them to be activists. I don't want them to be left or right. I just want them to do whatever their job is.
With the evidence that they give.
But in November, when the last application was made to have the injunction lifted, the government fought it, and the government said no, we can't lift it because we want to keep it in place, and that's why Labour are just as bad here as the Tories. But of course, the thing that really disgusted me today was that this is the biggest story of the year, minimum, possibly the decade, right? And what did we get out of Prime Minister's questions? Let's talk about the economy.
No, let's not.
I mean,
how you screwed that up because inflation's
gone up. No, but I mean,
Kemi
Badenoch didn't have the cojones to go in on Starmer and say, talk to him about this, because she knew that she would just get rattled by him. And so we didn't get any great debate. We didn't get any questions asked by her of him, which should have been, when did you know about it? And why did you take so long to respond to a judge and all of that? Instead of which we got Starmer making a statement saying, we inherited this absolute mess from the government, and we're now going to clear it up. But it's ridiculous.
So we played Nigels Call. Nigels beat yesterday, which was about a minute, and he was saying there is proof to say that several thousand, perhaps, of these people could be sex offenders, could be criminals. Let's just look at the facts as well. Sarah Poacham was saying to me, we know that 1,200 of the 23,900 were special forces. Absolutely right. But my argument will be the remaining 22,700, we don't know who they are, what they are, they haven't been vetted. And if you look at the state of this country and how people are feeling because of uncontrolled mass immigration, economic migration, fact, whatever the left say, surely all the activists should be going, well, that could be a danger to women, that could be a danger to society. But you don't hear them say anything like that.
Let's look back on since Starmer's been in. Now, knowing what we now know, Starmer knew that all of these Afghans were coming into Britain. They were coming in. We had calls this morning from people who said they noticed it around about February of 24, right? And then all the way through 24, these people were arriving in the country. They were occupying houses. They were being given properties. They were being brought into, barrack-like all places. We had a caller from Uxbridge who said she lives in Royal Air Force Barracks, formerly, and she said there's a whole series of Afghan families got moved in sometime last year, right? So he knows all that, and yet he continually says we're keeping our borders safe. He continually makes out that he's forcing immigration numbers down. He's smashing the gangs, all the rest of it. He's part of the biggest smuggling gang you've ever seen. They smuggled them into Stansted at night, where in unmarked planes. These are smuggling gangs we're talking about. The British government is complicit in that, and he knew all of that. And do you know what else happened? All of the riots, there's a memorandum that went round to every single person in the cabinet, right? And there was a memorandum in September of 24 that said all of the places where there were riots were places where there was a very high incidence of incoming Afghan refugees. So, they knew a lot more.
Just repeat that for people who are driving.
So, in all the places where there were riots, there's a memorandum in government in which they said to every minister in government that we know that where those riots took place, there were an awful lot of Afghans moving in.
And that is why the ministers have privately been briefing to news organisations saying we are concerned about rioting. Let's get to free speech. So there's a story out there. It's a free speech. Britons believe they can no longer speak their mind. How the hell are they going to have any confidence in a society that for 683 days has used a celebrity gagging machine to stop telling us the truth? I put something out yesterday. Love your take on this. Going back to Southport, I think it was pretty obvious to me that the government knew quite instantly about Rida Bikana, right? They knew who he was. They knew he wasn't an illegal migrant.
His background.
Right? But they allowed something on social media that was febrile to get more and more and more, and that spilled over, right? Surely, if they'd spoken out before about him, we wouldn't have had that riot situation. But I ask you this, does it not suit, or did it not suit Starmer's ideology and everything else for that to happen so he could quash it? And if that's the case, you then look at this and you go, so how much do we know and how much do we not know? I'm not trying to be conspiratorial, but we don't know that 23,000 Afghan people, men, women, have come into our communities. What the hell does that say?
Well, it tells me that they want us not to know things, right?
Absolutely.
They want us not to know that they are deliberately making policy which is ruinous to this country, which is detrimental to the cohesion of society and of communities up and down the land. And they also know that we could end up with a town, not necessarily in one place, but a town with 150,000 Afghan immigrants in it, right? Because the families are coming, the children are coming. We don't even know, as you say, who they are. We don't really know what they were doing. Some of them might be members of the Taliban, for all we know.
Well, that was the other interesting thing. So two other things. We'll take a couple of calls, if you don't mind, in a minute. A couple of other things. And during the show, I then get past a piece of paper that says you do know that a group of these people who have been settled here for a year plus have got themselves left-wing sort of human rights lawyers on the British taxpayer, and they plan to sue the British government for putting them in a dangerous position for £1 billion.
I know. It's absolutely unreal.
So how does that work?
You couldn't make this stuff up. I mean, it really is quite incredible.
Many other cover-ups, as Sarah Poachin said, are there?
And what about Rishi Sunak? We haven't heard from him.
Not
we haven't
a word.
heard from Grant Shapps, who is supposedly the guy that asked for the superinjunction in the first place. What was the legal process? We need to know all the answers to all of this, because I think this finishes the Tories off. And in my show this morning, more and more people were saying, we've had enough, this is the final straw, let's just have an election, because let the people decide, because it's very clear now that Labour and the Tories are in cahoots with each other on immigration, and they can't be trusted. Very interesting.
You're right to go to calls. Derby, let's go to Nick. Nick, you're on Talk Drive, and Mike Gray and the legends with me. What you got?
Well, what a legend Mike is. But how does 60 feel, though? How do you feel about being 60?
Shut your face and get on with the call.
That was a long time ago, Mike.
It was a week ago. Mike and I don't remember what we had for breakfast. Crack on.
These 24,000 Afghan refugees, and the Taliban know that they know who they are now, don't they?
Well, they've known for 2 years. This is the interesting thing. They've known them. Somebody rang.
Know that they've not murdered those people and replaced them with their own men and sent them straight into our country.
That's an interesting theory. I hadn't thought of that one. But certainly, if they haven't done that...
It's not rocket science to replace somebody, is it? You know what I mean?
No, that's true. But also, even if that's not true... they've only just been coming over the past, say, year and a half or so. How come they haven't been killed, if that's the case?
Yeah.
I know. This leads you to believe that they haven't done it on purpose, or you haven't heard that they've been killed because they have replaced them.
I want to make the point that, of course, we absolutely rightly, for the 1,200 special forces of Afghans who helped us, we absolutely have to do the right thing. But the remaining number is a grey area. We don't know who they are, where they've come from, why they... And the thing is, those people were on a list attempting to get political asylum, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
They hadn't been guaranteed that, so they hadn't proved that they had the criteria. And we've done a blanket, you can all come on, in you come.
And how useless is the MOD? You remember going back to when the airlift originally happened right at the start, and it was a shambles, and there was all sorts of arguments about whether you could bring dogs and cats out and all of that. And there was only one person on duty in the Foreign Office, right? Do you remember that? There was only one person working in the Foreign Office at that particular time because everyone else was working from home.
Was this when what's it got into trouble because he was on a beach?
Yeah, and the sea was closed. Do you remember? Dominic Raab. All of that, right? It then turns out we had Hugh Andre on again this morning. You know, our mate who's a former, commando in Afghanistan, right? And he said there was another blunder which was reported on at the time when another idiotic MOD sort of operatic sent out an email to all the soldiers saying you're going to get fired when you get back because they weren't supposed to see it. You know,
is everybody in the MOD completely rubbish, or what?
Well, let's not forget, this is the organisation that Keir Starmer says is going to be on a war footing.
Can't even send an email, let alone shoot a gun. Let's head to Sussex, your home county. Anne, you're on Talk Drive, and the legend that is Michael Graham is with me. What you got?
What can I say? Have both of you on one programme.
Yeah.
There's a thought.
So lucky. I'm sorry. The news today, it's just the last straw. Not only have we got a huge number of illegal immigrants, we've got the legal immigrants as well. And the legal immigrants, they are the ones who are going to be provided with the decent homes and decent furniture and equipment and given the skills for life that our poor, ordinary English men and women, or the people on our streets, or the veterans, are never going to get.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, they know. I mean, Mikey was saying this, Anne. A lot of these Afghans have, under the cloak of darkness and secrecy, been housed in MOD barracks. I repeat this story in my town last Saturday. 14-year veteran on the streets. Gave him some money. He said, "Can I have the meal deal? And if you're going for me, I'll have the Snickers." Made me laugh. And he was telling me 14 years, and he said, I got to stay in this hospital. It's now full of migrants. How do we have a situation that's a fly? How do we have a situation whereby it could be someone else? People who serve for this country are being screwed, and people who the people who argue with me are going to go, but these people help protect your country. No, 23,000. And then wasn't there another story this week that even some of them, these veterans, are under threat of prosecution from the government over what they did in Northern Ireland. Let's just screw our own again, shall we?
No, I mean, Keir Starmer got up today and had the gall to say he had the greatest respect for our armed forces. You know, he's prosecuting them. Yeah. He's actually putting them through the horrors of going through a trial for something that they did when they were standing up for Queen and country at the time, killing members of the IRA who wanted to kill them. You know, it's unbelievable.
It beggars belief. Just very, 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 very quickly. Prevent, sum it up. They've admitted this ridiculous, useless government scheme that they missed the chance to deal with Sir David Amess, the late legend that was Sir David Amess's killer, and the Southport killer. They missed it.
I mean,
so
how many
more
times are we going to be told that something didn't work properly? You know, if you might remember, I had Lord Carlisle on, who was meant to be the Prevent sort of safeguard supervisor, who had a massive row with me because I said to him, Prevent is clearly not fit for purpose. It doesn't prevent anything.
It doesn't prevent anything.
And he said, well, it works most of the time. And I said, well, that's not good enough.
No.
Because if you've got somebody...
Prevent's a statement, isn't it?
And it's all, again, goes back to Starmer and his definition of terrorism, and they're talking about now making a different sort of sector so that people can be looked at if they've got violent tendencies. This guy was a terrorist. It's plain and simple. Everybody knows it.
But Starmer is putting his foot down. He's suspended a fourth MP now, Rachel Maskell. He's got rid of four of them. In the end, they're all going to get in a room and get rid of him. You know that, don't you? Yeah, they will.
Absolutely.
You are absolutely right.
This never works out well for them. People want an election. They want rid of Starmer. They'd rather literally have anybody but him.
Couldn't agree more. What's on breakfast? Just say it's no idea. Why would you have any idea? It's
I don't know.
20 to 5.
I don't know, but we'll be certainly replaying the Lord Carlisle interview that I did.
Be the only way to wake up every single morning, Monday to Friday from 6 until 10. The legend that is Mike Graham. We love you, my man. Get home and get some rest.